Thank you so much for being here. It's really important for our elected officials to come out and speak with the citizenry and be able to engage on a closer level. What is it that you want to be here to most closely represent to the food community and the community at large?
Well, this is going to be an important year. We have, frankly, a lot of distractions going on in Washington right now, but this is very likely the year that we start to put together the next farm bill. And as people know, that has a huge impact on our food and farming policies for several years. So we're hoping that as this year progresses, once we get a new Secretary of Agriculture and the department kind of reconstitutes and the committees get going, we really need people to engage with our local members of Congress to make sure that people know what's in the food that we eat, how it's grown, our relationship to local food, organic food, sustainable agriculture, things that many, many people care about, that they're letting their member of Congress know, that they let people know they want to see some changes, they want to continue the programs that have worked well. We really need those voices. And I think often members of Congress, they care about these issues. They're not oppositional, but it's just not on their radar screen. And that's why it's particularly important right now.
We went through a really tough election cycle. There was a lot of political strife going on in the country. Chef Andres was just saying food is one of the things that can bring us together. It's hard to imagine people over a big plate of paella being able to really disagree. What do you think about food as an issue being something that could help unite us? Because at the end of the day, nobody's going to say we want people to be hungry.
Right.
You know, that it's just a matter of how do we pay for it? How do we get there? How do we work out the logistics? How do we look at these issues and say it is something that should be nonpartisan?
Right. I think there's really two things that need to happen. I mean, I would say, based on the experiences I've had in my district and in the state of Maine, I found food and agriculture a very nonpartisan issue. You know, there's nothing different but a Republican and a Democrat when it comes to people would prefer to buy food locally. They'd prefer organic or less chemicals in their food. They want to know that farming is sustainable, and they really care about the rural economy in a state like ours. So they're thrilled to see what's happening in our state, which is more young people getting into farming, more agricultural opportunities, more sources of local food, more local foods in the school, more kids access to healthier food. So I feel like people are already there. Like, we don't have to tell them this is a good idea. They just want to know, like, what should I do to engage and what's broken in the system if it's not always working. I do think sometimes on the issues of hunger, and my state is one of the states where we have a lot of kids who are food insecure, a lot of families who don't have enough food on the table. Sometimes people need to hear more direct information about what does that family look like? What's a hungry kid? And often people don't know that seniors are one of our biggest population of not having enough food. Sometimes seniors are making this decision like, ooh, do I pay my heating bill? Do I buy my prescriptions? Or do I get enough to eat? Seniors love to take advantage of farmers markets. They love fresh, healthy food. So many of them, have great cooking skills, but sometimes they're the hardest to access. Sometimes they're too proud to take advantage of the programs that are out there for them. But I think in that domain, it's just a way of making sure people understand that there's a lot of people who they work hard, but they just don't make enough money to make ends meet. And so WIC and SNAP benefits and school lunch programs are critically important to them. We may have some disagreements around that at the congressional level, but it's going to be important to make sure we do the right thing.
Do you have one last question?
I would just say, in terms of bridging the gap between outreach to children and seniors and this like back to the land young farmers movement, what do you see as like a good balance between political movement and legislative progress, as well as really taking care of the land and, like you said, paying attention to what's in our food?
Well, I think a lot of the younger farmers who have come into our state are sort of naturally politically engaged. They're already doing a kind of job that people in their community appreciate. I think the rural divide in many ways is much less than sort of the urban divide between, different political groups. People in the rural areas really understand, like, food is fundamental. They really want to support young people getting into farming because they're excited about this idea that our community is going to be revitalized, that there's going to be a farmer down the road where I can get all those things I used to buy 20 years ago. And so I think there's a good way for people to work together. Farmers are critical to being a part of this conversation. That's why the Farm Bill, it unites nutrition and agricultural practices. It's historically been that way because it's a way for farmers to say, we understand our product is there to feed people. We don't want to do all this work, grow all this wonderful food, and then find out that a huge percentage of Americans go hungry or kids don't get adequate nutrition, which is critical for their brain development and doing well in school and having healthy, happy lives. So I think it's a good time to be working those two things together, and particularly, again, as we start the process of the next Farm Bill.